to Generational Perspective, where we share our knowledge and wisdom from different generational perspectives. Today's topic is timeless faith, raising three generations with God's guidance. Let's welcome our guest, Fredricka Flint. Welcome.
Good morning.
And I am your host, Lisa Keeton. Scripture states in Revelations 12:11, and they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they loved him not to their lives unto the death. So this is my beautiful friend, Fredricka, and we've known each other for 36 years, soon to be 37.
Yes.
And Fredricka she's always had the spirit of hospitality in her life. And when I met her and her husband, Robert, they welcomed me in just like I was one of their own children. And I was young, I was in college, and it was always something good to eat at her house because she's a great cook.
Thank you.
And not only did she welcome me in, but she welcomed a lot of young people in. And they just made us feel so warm, so loved. And it was just always a good environment. And God placed them in my life for a reason. And they're still in my life for that same reason. And so it has been a beautiful journey with them. And so I wanted her to be able to come on the show and tell us a little bit about her life and some of the things that she's gone through and the fact that she is in the process of raising her third generation of kids. So she's a mom, she's a grandmother, and she's also a great grandmother. And it takes a lot to raise a village, but I don't know if God meant the village this way. But anyway, I'm going to step in and take the spot when people aren't in place. So, Fredricka, just tell us a little bit about your younger years and where you came up and how you came up.
Okay. I want to say good morning to Lisa again. And I have to say she's a very important part of my life. And to even think about me coming on her show and just asking me questions I am so thrilled and I'm so proud of her.
Thank you.
And I grew up in a small place in Florida, Ormond Beach, Florida. And I have to say this, I lived on a little street called Lincoln Avenue. And my grandmother lived next door. My uncle lived next door to my grandmother, to our left. And to the right, I had another uncle. Mm-hmm. So it was a village. Mm-hmm. And it was always about family. We took care of each other. We loved on each other. And I'm not going to say it was perfect because I was born in 1946. And growing up, life is a journey.
Yes, it is.
And that journey has brought me to San Diego, California in 1978. And it was the influence, I have to say, it was the influence of my grandmother and her nurturing that I guess I realized my calling because I've been the oldest of 11 children along with my brother Frederick. And we were twins. The oldest children were twins and the youngest children are twins. And it was a big responsibility. But I had to accept it, and I had to do what I had to do.
To be the oldest and be responsible for everybody else.
Yes.
And that's the way they did it in the older days, right? Because the parents were outside the house, and so the responsibility for the children fell on the oldest child. And so you went through that, you processed that, and look, God has brought you full circle with you. You raised your two girls. And then you help them raise their kids, and now you help one of the great granddaughters raise her kids.
Yeah, the oldest granddaughter's children. Yes.
Yes. And so that is amazing that God already kind of prepared you for that a long time ago when he gave you all that responsibility because he knew later on in life you were still going to have this responsibility.
Yes, yeah.
And it's a lot.
It is a lot. And when it came to the great grand, I was like, I don't know if I can do this, because there are things that I wanted to do. And, I kept putting things on hold. I didn't want to do a lot of things at one time. I wanted to
Right.
concentrate on what God had put in my life. And when it came to the great grandchildren, I just had to get down and I just had to pray. And I said, Lord, I don't know what to do. What should I do? And you know what he said? You already know what to do. Okay, I already told you. And so I started out with one, and he's 16 years old now, and we got him when he was 3 months old.
Mhm.
And at least I have to say this: my husband was getting ready to retire,
Yes.
and he had retired, and we were going to be airport sitters through the government. We were going to fly all over the country and just travel, 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 and have a good time. So we
Right.
had gone down to Florida, and just the two of us. And then the phone rang one evening, and they said, and I heard my oldest daughter crying, saying that the child had been taken.
Mm.
And so she was on a night shift, and she needed us. So
Right.
I'm like, really? So what we finished our vacation in Florida, and we got in the car, because we like traveling cross country by car. And
Right.
we drove back, and it took us 3 months to get him. But he's now 16 years old, a junior in college in high school, excuse me,
Mhm.
playing football.
Right.
And the middle one, he's 14, and we've had him since he was 4. And then the youngest we have is we got her, and she was about 3 months old, and she's now 9 years old.
Wow.
So when you look back on it, uh, we ask ourselves, were they growing up so fast?
Mhm. Mhm.
And so, you know, I do believe that God has a plan for all of us. And if we just listen, be obedient, we can do it.
You
We
can
can
do
do
it.
all things through Christ who strengthens us.
Yes, you can.
So
And the one thing that I thought about when you were talking is that you had to give up your dreams. You had to
yes.
give up yourself. You had to, in order to feed into somebody else or feed into the next
Hmm.
generation.
Right.
And that's not always easy because we can be very selfish.
Hmm.
And you could
Hmm.
have let them in the system, or you could have just said, you know what, God, you know what? I want to live my life for right now. But the fact that you
Yes.
heard and you obeyed, they are truly blessed because you didn't
Yes.
have to make them.
That's right. But you know what? I have always taken care of my grandchildren. I would work, and then when when daycare became
Mhm.
impossible, or you have episodes, and you have to call you, and I was trying to work, and I said, okay, I'll go get them. And so finally, my husband retired, and I said, well, if I'm gonna take care of the grandchildren, I'll just open up me a daycare, and make me some money, because I'm not making any money off my kids. So I had a daycare for 1 year after my husband retired, and he was able to assist me. And we
Right.
did it all. I got my license and everything. And but after a year, he uh, he found employment, and so I said, "That's it, buy daycare."
And that's right around the time because I was in college when I was out there.
You're
So
right. Mm-hmm.
um, that's right around the time when you started your daycare that I pretty
Mm-hmm.
much came on the scene
Yeah.
and you helped with the daycare. And then look, show up for lunch because I knew she was cooking for them babies. So,
Yes, they did. I always cooked. I always, I didn't. I always did have to cook a nourishing meal. So no
yes.
problem.
And I'm telling you guys, if you ever in San Diego, look up Fredricka's restaurant.
Well, I have people calling me now. When are you gonna start cooking? Because I sold dinners as a fundraiser for my family reunion.
Right.
So, and we raised a lot of money, but people, I was amazed that so many people depended on it.
Yes.
And we had caregivers that would come and get meals. I'm so glad you're cooking today because I don't have to cook. I can come over
Right.
here. So they calling me now. So I might start up again soon.
And that, I mean, it's a blessing. It's a blessing to get a home cooked meal and not something in the store or something that was,
Yeah.
prepared for thousands of people that, you're eating the same thing and it's kind of bland. So that was that carried me through college. So, and so that was always a blessing. Like I said, they were always warm, and it was always a great environment, and to be over there and to be in a safe place. And
Thank you,
so,
Lisa.
yes, it was. I'm sure everybody else thinks the same thing because it wasn't just me. It was
No,
a
it wasn't
whole
you.
a gaggle of us.
Well, we started. What happened was my husband was stationed in Seattle, Washington, and he asked me. He said, "Fredricka, uh, there are some guys on the ship. They're away from their home, and Thanksgiving is coming up. And can we invite them over for dinner, Thanksgiving dinner?" And I said, "Sure." And so I think it was about four of them. They came over for dinner, and it started. I would be at Naval Hospital and I see a young soldier and they're sitting there and we strike up a conversation and they say, they tell me they from out of state and how homesick they were. And so we have, I know we have 5 grandchildren, but we have how many? I can't even call. They
Yeah.
call and we're still in their lives. They all over the United States. And it's like, we were blessed. So we bless someone else. We open our home to those military young men and women that were, and college students. But we still have to get our reunion together, Lisa.
We
We're
do
supposed
need
to
to do
have a
our
reunion.
reunion. That
Yes,
that's a true statement. We do, and I
yes.
reach out to everybody and say, "Hey, look, let's all meet in San Diego and hang out at the Flints."
That's right. Hey, we even have pro football players here at this house. So
That is true. One of my brothers.
yeah, one of your brothers.
And so it has been wonderful. So tell me a little bit about the differences that you see between raising your girls, your grandkids, and the kids that you have, your great grands that you have now. Because I know the school system has changed, environment has changed, society has changed. And so I know there's a lot of changes that have happened over the years.
Well, my children were born in the 60s.
Mhm.
It was a totally different world back then. And with my husband being in the military, he retired after 30 years in 1993. So uh, during the 60s, there were times that I felt like I was, alone because I moved to San Diego in 1967 and he was at sea. He went to
Mm.
sea and he served 2 deployments to Vietnam. They were both a year at a time. So that's when I really felt like I was single
Right.
and raising the children during the time. And we were in Charleston, South Carolina in the 60s. And we had gotten a home and I had to sell my home because it was so much turmoil and I had to really, I was sleeping with knives and people were egging my house because they didn't want us living in their community.
Oh, wow.
And so he was in Vietnam. I wrote him and I told him, I said, when you get back, I won't be living here. I'll be
Mm.
somewhere else. And so it was hard, but we stuck together and I was thankful that my children were very young.
Right.
Okay. And then we moved to Guam. We were there for 3 years and it was totally different, but we had to adapt. It's called adaptability.
Right.
And your faith, you have to have strong faith.
Mhm.
You have to. And then my grandchildren, they've all lived. I was talking to my 18-year-old this morning. I dropped him off at City College, and we talked about the times that he lived here and
Right.
his brothers. And so it wasn't a long time, but we had to help until they were able to get out on their own, my daughters. Okay. And I'm very proud of them today. I have one that's a respiratory therapist and one that's an accountant, and they're doing really well. And now they're telling me that I need to slow down.
Yes.
when, when the other ones are and it is a big difference. And with the grandchildren, it was becoming is adapting to the changes in the school systems.
Mhm.
And once they became, once the great grand came, it's really a big difference now.
Right.
Because children nowadays, when they go to school, even at the middle school, they are teaching them independence and like young men, and even if they're not ready to be at that level.
Right.
And so you have to adapt, and you have to, and it's very difficult with the children nowadays because they're like, what are you saying? And when you talk about the different uh, uh, eras, they were, like, well, that was then and that was now. I said, well, yeah, it wouldn't be a now if it wasn't for back then.
Right.
Okay. So, and in the school system now, we have to deal with the drugs,
Mm-hmm.
different drugs and vaping. And nowadays, if you're caught vaping, you have to attend a class. Okay, and then you have the bullying. You have to
Mm-hmm.
deal with peer pressure,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to deal with the changes in their bodies and everything nowadays. We did it before then, but it's really different when your child comes home and you're cleaning the room and you see uh, sex items in there, and you're like, where do you get all of this from? Where you get this condom from? Oh, we had a class today and they gave it to us. Okay, I said, well, I told Robert, I said, well, you need to start talking. I said,
Because they're
because
talking. Mhm.
he's talking. And you have the not only the school policies but peer pressure,
Right.
peer pressure, and it's a lot. It's a lot that you have to deal with, and you have to deal with everything is done by computer nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
When we went through COVID, we had 3 children in computers, three different computers, 3 different grade levels, 3 different lesson plans.
Wow.
Okay, and they don't want to listen to us because they're not taught the way we were taught.
True.
And the teachers don't want you to teach them the way you were taught because you confuse them.
Right.
I say you still getting to the same, you're going from A to B, but you're doing it in a roundabout way. So it's a lot. It really is. And then you have to deal with social media.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that is a big problem nowadays is social media. We have one grandson now where he goes to school without his phone because he was using it in the classroom. And he says, well, Granny, I had to do my work. I said, no, you have a Chromebook in school. They don't
Right.
teach you lessons from your telephone. So you have to stay abreast of all these things because they'll tell you one thing and they tell me, Granny, you can't ask a question. You go to a whole nother level. And I said,
Mm.
well, I'm responsible for you.
Right.
Okay, I may not be the parent, I say, but I'm your grandparent and I'm also your legal guardian.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm responsible for you. So yes, I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to go to the teacher conference. I'm going to the Zoom meetings for 3 different children, Robin
Wow.
and I.
And you already gave us, you pretty much said your age when you gave us your birthday.
I'm
And so
78 years old. My
8
husband just
years
turned
old,
81.
and you guys are raising male teenage. You raised 2 girls, and girls. I got
Yes.
difference between girls and boys, right?
Big difference.
And so at 78 and him being 81, it's got to be hard in the house with two teenage boys wanting to do whatever they want to do, because of course that's the age where they're trying to find themselves and feel themselves and do
Yes.
all kinds of stuff. And so I can't imagine,
And
because I know
growing a
I would,
mustache.
oh
Growing a
yeah, I would
mustache.
want to
Excuse
knock
me.
them out. I would want to.
Well, you know what? You know what? Even discipline is different.
Mhm.
When I was growing up, and I tried not to get in trouble with my grandmother, because
Right,
my grandmother said, "Go out there and get me a switch,
right.
and when I use that switch, it better not break."
Ooh,
Okay,
right.
so it was the switch, belt, and even sometimes it wasn't me, but because I learned I was smart. Okay, I did what I was told. I did what I was told.
Right.
And nowadays, the children will tell you quickly, that's abuse. I can call the police. And I say, well, if you call the police, you go with the police. Just
Yes.
tell them to take them with you. But then you can't do that nowadays because discipline is different. So you're either taking away, and now I'm being accused of taking everything away from them.
Right.
Okay, and that's how I do the discipline. Robin and I, we take the phone, we take the PS5, and you can't go visit your friends because nowadays you say, okay, where does your friend live? Okay, so what's your friend last name? Their last name? I don't know. So I say that's not a friend. That's an acquaintance. It's someone you met at school. I haven't met their parents. You're not going to a sleepover. Okay. And I can't do anything. That's
Yeah.
what they say. I can't do anything. Took everything away from me.
But you don't have any other option, because how else
Really, you don't.
do they learn? Or how
They
else?
learn.
And that probably don't even teach them anything. It just teach them that something's going to get taken away. And they're like, oh, it's going to be gone for a week or 2 weeks or whatever. And then I'm just going to get it right back. So let me just do this just to get over. And then I can go back to being whoever or whatever I want to be when I want to be that. So
Well,
that's
you have to teach them that they make. One thing I always tell them: you made a choice.
right.
Now you have to suffer the consequences.
That's true.
And I'm saying if you keep doing it, you're not learning anything.
True. True.
You're not learning. So if a teacher is calling me, or they're sending sending a letter on the computer, and you're saying that it's not true, who am I supposed to believe?
Mm.
Okay,
Mm.
so you have to stay informed, and like I say, it is a lot when you have three, but we have another one is four, but she's not with us, and so
Right.
we try to keep in contact with her also.
And it's interesting, because the Bible says, "Spare the rod, spoil the child." Society,
Yes, it does.
yeah, society does not say that anymore.
Society does not say that
Yeah,
anymore.
right.
Mhm.
And so that is interesting. So tell me some of your favorite scriptures that you use to help you, go through what you have to go through, because it's a lot. It's a lot to have to carry young kids during this time of your life.
Okay, with Proverbs, the third chapter and the sixth verse is I've always turned to that because you say, and always acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy path.
Hmm.
And and that was my go-to scripture when I got each one of the children, because I got them under a very trying situation, because with the grandchildren, it was the drugs,
Right.
and the children were taken from their mother, and I had to make a choice, and I just prayed and I said, Lord, what am I supposed to do? And he gave me an answer. He said, you're going to take care of them, and I will be here for you. I won't leave you, and you can always come to me.
Yes.
And then when there was a lot of turmoil, I went to Psalms 46, and it is, God is our refuge, a very present help in trouble.
Yes.
My faith is very strong. I grew up with my, well, I grew up with my mother and father, but there was domestic violence in the household. Grandmother. I started working when I was 12 years old in the hotel industry with my grandmother, and I was always able to talk to her. And people tell me you just like grandmama. I say, well, hey,
That's not
to
a
me
bad
she was
thing.
good. And
Yes.
so we went, and we went to church on Sunday school. We went to Bible study and the BY, what is it, BYPU Baptist, and then we went to evening service. And so one day I told my mama, grandmama came over and woke us up to get ready for Sunday school, and I said, why grandmama always telling us to go to church? You don't tell us to go to church. You don't be asking that. You just get up and go. And so we had to be involved in the church. We just didn't go. We had to be part of the church. We had to
Right.
take care of the church. And that's something that has followed me on to today.
Mm-hmm.
And my other one, when I find so much joy at church, that's where my refuge, my peace.
Yes.
And I used to take the boys with me, and they got to the age where, Granny, when we going home? I'm
Mm.
hungry. And I'm like, you are not going to come to church and bother me.
Right.
Okay. I'll just leave you home with your grandfather. And I sometimes think that I did that. I shouldn't have done that,
Mm.
but I didn't want to have to force them.
Right.
I wanted them to go and know God on a level that I know Him.
Right.
And sometimes they'll say, where are you going? I say, I'm going to church. I go to meetings, I, and I participate in the activities of the church. And they just feel like you're doing too much. That's what they say nowadays, the teenagers. You're doing too much and you're saying too much. Okay.
Mm. Is that what
That's
they
what,
say?
that's what they say. That's what they say. And then with my involvement in the church, I cook for the unsheltered
Mm-hmm.
once a month, and I'm up to 100 meals. And I serve on the executive board,
See, I
and
told you God has a spirit of hospitality.
I'm also president of one of the auxiliaries and we do special events for the church. And then my go-to scripture for that is Matthew 5:16.
Okay.
Let let your works shine before men so that may see your good works and glorify your God, Father which is in heaven. And that's my go-to. And I always say, you do your best,
Yes.
because God doesn't give you, he gives you his best. He
Yes, he
gave
does.
his life for you. And so you're going to serve, and I'm going to serve until the day I die. That's how I feel. And I'm going to be here for my children and do the best that I can for them
Right.
with the help of my husband. And he's such a wonderful man, and he's so giving, and it's all about family with him. I'm sorry, Lisa, the phone is ringing.
That's okay. We can cut that out.
Okay. uh, so, uh, it's just that, I don't know. Life is right now, this country is in turmoil.
Yes.
And I can't say that I don't worry about the young people in my life, my grandchildren, my great grandchildren, but I do,
Mm-hmm.
because now we tell them that, and they don't have the faith that I have. They don't
Right.
understand where I'm coming from, and they don't know that there are people out there that are not so kind and not so forgiving,
Yes.
and that does. They say, if you're gonna worry, don't pray.
Right.
Okay, well, I pray, but I don't. I do worry, and I
Mm.
have to ask, God to, you know, uh, I need to be refreshed at times
Yeah. I
because of
understand.
the, you know, and years ago I love Hallmark cars, and I went to Hallmark and I saw this card on faith. Can I read it to you?
Yes.
Okay. Faith.
Mhm.
Faith is knowing in your heart what you can't yet see with your eyes.
Yes.
Faith is the substance of things hoped for,
Mhm.
believed in, and brought to God in prayer. Faith is deep. Faith is strong. Faith is real.
Mhm.
Faith is getting out of bed when you want to pull the covers over your head.
Yes.
Faith is a nudge, a whisper, a shout from the soul. Faith is substance for a moment, for a day, for as long as it takes. Faith is the answer no matter the question,
Right.
problem, or situation. Faith is what it is. Faith is everything.
It is.
And I have to go to that card sometimes.
Faith in Jesus Christ. Yes.
Yes,
It is. It
it
is.
is.
It's interesting that, yeah, it's a journey. And everybody has a journey that they have to take, or a path that God puts them on to take. And the fact that you have embraced your journey has been wonderful to see. And I'm sure when, God forbid, and I pray there's no time soon, that when you're gone, that your great grandkids, grandkids, and kids will look back and say, you know what, mama had faith, grandmother had faith, great granny had faith, and they'll be like, I didn't get it when she was here, but I got it now. And so he always gives us that hope,
He
so that
does.
that
Yes.
you just keep doing what you need to do. You keep setting an example, and they'll get it. They'll see it.
Yeah.
You know.
I told my 16-year-old the other day, I said, you know what? You're gonna have a light bulb moment one day.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
He's not that he's giving me a lot of problems. The thing is that he's 16 and he has the little mustache.
Right.
He's 222 pounds,
He's a big boy.
and he thinks he knows everything,
Yeah.
everything. And when you try to instill in him that you don't know everything, there's still a lot of learning to do. And I say, I'm 78 years old. There's no way in the world you know more than I do.
Right. That
That's
is
what I
true.
have to tell him. That's what I have to tell him.
But
So
you have
they
to
have,
think about it. When we were young, we used to think the same thing, right?
yes, well, no.
Yeah. I thought I knew more than my parents knew.
Oh, I never, no, I didn't think that.
Yeah, I thought, I'm like, yeah, I was a rockhead.
But we had limitations.
Yes,
We
we
had
did have
limitations when we were coming up, not because of the time that we were coming up. Okay,
right.
that we were being raised. We had limitations. I mean, we couldn't go to our beach, and we were just a few miles from the beach.
Oh
We
wow.
couldn't go to the schools in our areas because only the white students went there. We had to pass those schools to go to the black school, which is one building that went
Right.
from the first grade to the eighth grade.
Oh
So
wow.
they taught everyone in our little town, and they taught my parents, they taught my uncles, my aunts, so they knew everyone.
Right.
So when we got to when it was time for go to high school, we were put on a bus. We were bused before busing started.
Wow. Wow.
Okay, so we had limitations. We had limitations at school. We had limitations in the community, and we had limitations at home.
That's true.
There were some things you did not do. You did interfere with adult conversations. You were
True.
not in the room when adults were in the room. So we always had limitations.
Right.
Well, when we were dating, the light would come on and you had to be in the house. You were not allowed to, if your boyfriend had a car, and which mine did. Robert was my high school sweetheart,
Right.
and we had to walk behind the car. His friend was driving the car because I wasn't allowed to get in the car.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so we always had limitations, and now kids have a lot of freedom. Okay,
Right.
they have a lot of freedom nowadays. So it's a big. I say life is a journey.
It is a journey.
Okay, and it is, and we had 3 generations, and that journey had a lot of, we had a lot of, little nooks and curves and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm the better for it. Okay, I'm better for it.
Each generation has its own unique, for lack of a better term, craziness.
Yes, and this is the craziest.
Yeah,
This is
yeah,
the
yeah.
craziest. It
Because
is.
there's a lot more freedom and people have a
Hmm.
lot more rights, but you don't set boundaries or, everybody wants to do what they want to do. And my
Right.
thing is you can do it, but you need to get a job so that you can take care of yourself and do it.
Hmm.
You-
That's
I'm
that's what I had to tell my 19-year-old this morning. It's time for you to make a move. I'm sure you in college. I say,
Mhm.
but you need to prepare for the future. I know you're in
Yeah.
college, but you're not really set. Otherwise, in your life situation, what about right now and college?
Yes.
Okay,
Not
but you
independent. You still leaning on your mom and your dad to take
something
care
had
of you. You're not
mhm.
taking care of yourself, but you
You
want
need
to
to
do
learn to
whatever you
take care
want
of
to do.
yourself.
Hmm.
So
And we get that a lot. We get that a lot.
well, yeah, you've been there. You have been there, all
Oh,
right?
yeah. I thank him every day.
Hey,
Every
you can
day.
exhale now.
I am free. I am
You're
free, Lord.
free.
Thank you. Thank you. But it has been truly a blessing talking to you this morning. And this is wonderful conversation. And I'm glad you're still hanging in there. You do need to get some rest. I wish I was out on that coast so I could just take you through.
I'm getting rest today, Lisa.
They're in school. I'm talking about.
Well, I'm
I'm
talking
talking
with
about
you.
a week of rest where you don't have to worry about nobody, nothing. And
Well, maybe during the holidays. We're waiting for the holidays because they'll
okay,
be out for a couple of weeks and we're going to do something.
all
I
right. But you're
promise
not
you.
doing something with them. You're doing something with just you
Oh, no,
alone.
I said just the two of us.
Okay, okay. That's good.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Because you need a break. You deserve a break.
Yeah, we
You,
do.
you really do. We have to take care of ourselves as mothers, as wives, as grandmothers. It's a lot on our plate, but sometimes we forget about us. And you
That's
can't
true.
keep pouring out of yourself if you're empty. So you got to take time to refresh and refill your cup so that you can pour into somebody else. And so with that, I'm going to say thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Love you so
Love
much.
you. Love you to life. Love you to life. And this
Okay.
has been a beautiful interview. So I
Thank
will
you.
be talking to you again soon.
Okay. Have a blessed day.
You too. Thank you.
All right. Bye bye.